welcome to Hollywood Crime Scene. This is Rachel Fisher.
Hi, this is Desi Jedeikin.
How's your week, Desi?
Pretty amazing.
You know what? It's been a hell of a week.
You know, I try.
I tried.
You tried? Did you not succeed?
No.
Okay. I mean, I feel like sometimes I feel like, oh, I didn't die. Like I have a very low threshold for success this year.
Yeah. I had a fun night.
I had some moments of fun, like genuine fun.
Right.
So that's always a success.
Yeah. That's good.
And then I think, yeah. But, you know, it's still hell.
We just got really real in the opening of this show.
Yeah. But actually right now, on a more humorous note, and it's not necessarily murder, but it is a Hollywood crime. Right now we have to suffer hearing Rachel's neighbors listen to the live version of A Christmas Carol, the musical, which I did not even know was a musical.
I think they made it a musical for this broadcast.
When I actually arrived at Rachel's house, it was the end of a number called You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. And that's how it ended. That was the last line of the thing. It was about the line from the movie where the guy's wants the gun, but his mom's like, no, you'll shoot your eye out. So it was a whole song and dance number. I walk up to the thing and this is what I hear. You'll shoot your eye out, bump. Like that was the big dramatic ending. I'm sorry. I'm like so irritated about it. And I can't even express why it's irritating to me. But as a fan of musical theater, that's good. I found it very like.
In poor taste.
Not only in poor taste, but just like so generically, like such a generic musical ending.
Yeah.
Done. And I couldn't see it, but I just pictured them with their hands up in the air and kind of like doing that heavy breathing. Like we just danced a lot and now we're ending it and we're smiling, but we're still heavy breathing because we just danced a lot and sang a lot. But now we have to smile at the end with our hands up in the air. No one knows what I'm talking about.
I know what you're
sorry.
talking about.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just like, come on. Okay.
It's amateur hour here.
Right. So I'm sure it's very good. I'm not criticizing artists because I know they work hard. And no one sets out to make a piece of crap. So I've heard. I truly believe that everyone worked really hard.
Right.
And we're trying to put on a good show. But you know what?
Too. And
it's
we
not
like
my cup
some
of tea.
The actors involved.
Do we? Who's in it?
I don't know. David Allen Greer.
Oh, yeah. I like David.
Maya
Hey,
Rudolph.
David. He sometimes listens. He's my butt on Twitter. Wait, did he play Santa? I did see something about this.
Oh, so he was up in Santa's
He was
lap.
the one.
He was
I just
the
heard
one.
that was Santa's lap, David.
Oh.
Now I'm gonna have to write some lewd things to him about Santa's lap.
Okay, good.
So that'll make it all better. He'll
Okay,
forgive
good.
me.
I like this story has a happy ending.
Yeah, it does. Okay, now we're better. See, I just had to rag on something for a second.
Yeah. Well, I was really excited to research this episode this week because it involves a television show that I was a huge fan of in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And it's the Jenny Jones Show. Do you remember this show?
Of course.
Did you watch this?
Of course I watched Jenny Jones.
I watched all the trashy 90s daytime talk shows.
I loved Jenny Jones and I loved Ricky Lake.
Loved Ricky, loved Sally.
But Jenny Jones was sort of...
She was like at another
It was
level.
like C-level. Like as far as the daytime talk shows, she was not like... There's like Oprah, Ricky Lake is maybe B-list.
Right.
And then Jenny Jones and Sally Jesse Raphael are like C.
No,
right?
Jenny Jones actually, in my opinion, was even below Maury. Jenny Jones was a step above Jerry Springer, but right below Maury. Because Jenny Jones, her show was like Jerry Springer in that there was crazy yelling and antics, but it was more structured than a Jerry Springer show.
She wasn't trying to help anyone like Oprah was.
And
hers were more trashy, kind of tabloidy.
Right.
But she did every once in a while.
And we're gonna get into talking about her show right now and the genesis of it. So it began in September of 1991, and it starred Jenny Jones, of course, who before getting her own talk show was a comedian, an actress, and a drummer in a rock band.
And her photos, we have to find some because they're amazing.
Oh, they're fucking fantastic.
They're so 80s.
Her hair.
Early 90s. Like, yeah, she had the classic, I don't know, like the metal head, but kind of...
Like Hesher
but
hair.
Like metal head, but like good girl. Like,
right.
You know.
Right.
Of.
It was like Walmart brand Lita Ford.
Exactly. I was trying to think Lita Ford. Perfect.
Right. So Jenny was born June 7th, 1946 to Polish immigrants. Before ascending to fame as the next big talk show host, she appeared as a contestant on The Price is Right,
Oh my God.
Press Your Luck, and The Match Game. When the Jenny Jones Show debuted, it was designed to be more along the lines of a serious talk show like Oprah. And at that time, Oprah was blowing up. Oprah, I guess, began in 1986, I think.
Right.
So by 91, Oprah was like, a household name. She had her big talk show, and her show was hugely successful. And the Jenny Jones Show was sort of modeled to be closer to an Oprah.
Everyone was like, let's get the next Oprah.
Right. And at that time, like I said before, there was also Sally Jesse Raphael. There was the Phil Donahue Show, which I also loved.
Well, Donahue was before Oprah.
Right. But that was still,
going.
he was very much like in my mind, when I think of the Phil Donahue Show, I guess I think of like my early childhood, like late 80s, early 90s.
I mean, Donahue and Oprah were the first two huge.
Right. However, ratings in the early days of the Jenny Jones Show were not good. So in 1993, the Jenny Jones Show pivoted to trashier content. And this reminds me of a lot of shows that first weren't very successful in the beginning and then became successful a couple like years after, just like my favorite show, Melrose Place.
Right. They do like a major change.
They did a major change, which was they brought Heather Locklear on in the end of the first season,
right.
And then the show became successful because it didn't do well because it was sort of bland and not the drama wasn't that crazy.
Right.
But once they started creating these like insane fucking storylines and this crazy like bitch hot character in Amanda Woodward,
it kind of went back to the classic sort of Dynasty and Dallas, like the insane storylines.
And that's what the Jenny Jones Show began to do. Popular themes on the show were wild, out-of-control teens. There was a lot of makeover shows where they would take people who were either dressed really slutty or dressed like punk rockers or just dressed in any kind of bizarre, freakish way, like out of the norm, counterculture way, and they would make them over by the end of the show because their parent or family member was usually like, I don't like the way they dress, I'm embarrassed when we go out in public. And those were some of my favorites were the makeover ones, especially the makeover ones that were like a crossover with the wild, out of control teens.
Right.
I love the wild.
Cash Me Outside, the originals.
Right. But the Cash Me Out. I'm sorry, but the Cash Me Outside girl is so boring compared to some of the girls that I grew up with.
Well, hers is such a put on. I mean,
it's so put on. But these girls.
By the way, a friend of mine was on the flight last year where she went crazy and got kicked off like a Florida Air
amazing.
I can't remember what flight, what trash airline it was.
Right. Spirit, Florida.
Oh, I think it was Spirit. You're right. Spirit.
Awesome. Yeah. But these girls, they would show up and they would be, you could not have these shows on today because it was essentially like.
It's exploitive.
It's very exploitative. It was very tawdry. There would always be like some teenage girl whose mom was freaking out, rightly so, because their daughter was on drugs and sleeping with men and dressing like a stripper, and she's only like 13 years old. And then the teen girl, like they'd bring the teen girl out and she'd like bust through the curtains and the whole audience would be like, and the audience was very much like.
Did you say you put Jenny Jones below Maury?
Yes. And
at that time I agree, but Maury got trashier. Okay.
I'll explain to you why.
Maury got way trashy.
He got way trashier and Maury was trashy, but Jenny Jones, like you could tell Maury like kind of like tried to.
He came from a more traditional journalism background
Maury
or whatever. Or
he's
broadcasting.
He's married to Connie Chung.
Duh.
And Connie Chung is a fucking legend.
Right. That's what I mean. Like he came from a more traditional broadcasting. I don't know if he was ever a journalist.
But Jenny Jones, that's what I'm saying. She's
like a comic.
She was a comic and she
in quotation marks.
There's actually footage and we should post it on our Twitter, a link of her on YouTube where she is doing stand-up comedy in the 80s with her Hesher hair.
And I remember her outfits too were like very like sexy Paula Poundstone.
Totally.
Okay.
But Jenny Jones like really reveled in the trashiness of her show. You could tell like she was really like kind of like like to rile the audience up and the people on her show up. So like I was just talking about the teens who were on her show, they would come out and the audience was very much an active participant in all of her shows. They'd be yelling and screaming just like on any Jerry Springer Maury show. And they'd be booing the teenage girls who were rude to their mothers or
Right.
dressed too provocatively. And the teenage girl would come out being like, sit down.
Yeah.
I look good.
And they'd
What?
always cut
What?"
to some person in the audience being like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
shaking
mouthing
their
and
head,
shaking their head.
"No."
Nope.
And then she would take the mic and go into the audience and be like, what do you think about Trisha? And the audience member would be like, I think Trisha needs to respect her mother. She
Right.
looks like garbage and she looks like a trashy hoe. And the audience would go like, woo, and they'd
Yeah,
laugh.
and you're like, oh, it's a 12-year-old.
Yeah. You could never have this show today.
Right.
Like, you
No, I mean, this would be like viral videos constantly. Like, they bullied her.
right. Like,
GoFundMe would be like going crazy.
I mean, it was fucking crazy. So there were those, and there was also cheating or jilted lover episodes, cousins who are in love. I watched.
I love the incest themed ones.
Oh my god, they're
so good.
fucking
My God.
amazing.
That's just a topic
I-
close to my heart.
Topic very close to Desi's heart. I rewatched a lot of these old episodes. Some of them are available on YouTube, and that's what I did this week. And I was like, it was like a total nostalgia walk
Right. I
down
need to
memory
do
lane.
this.
I mean, like, you understand, like, if I was homesick from school, like, of course I would watch The Price is Right. But like, when Jenny Jones rolled around at like 1 p.m., I was all over it.
I liked those shows a lot too, and I was probably, like I said before, the most into the Ricky Lake show. Like,
Yeah.
I loved that show when it came on.
It was great. So, by the mid 90s, these kinds of daytime talk shows, they ruled the air. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Oprah was really popular, but these shows dominated just as much as Oprah did.
Well, I feel like now there's only like very popular ones, like Ellen,
Right.
or whatever. But back then there was like 10 on, and they were all fine.
all-
Like, you watched them all.
Right. And Oprah was a very different show than these
Right.
ones, obviously.
No, Oprah was-
Oprah came on at 4 p.m. It was dignified. And this show was not dignified at all.
This show is the Tanya Harding,
It was the Tanya Harding of talk shows, and it was amazing, just like
Right.
Tanya Harding.
and Jenny Jones had that kind of crunchy blonde hair.
She did. She had many hairstyles throughout the
Right.
run of the show, and it was always
I just think of that as that blonde hair color that
was
I do
bleached.
not like.
Yeah. So in March 6th of 1995, Jenny Jones did an episode called Secret Crushes.
Oh, those were good.
Yeah. 24-year-old Jonathan Schmitz was told that he had a secret admirer and was asked to be a guest on the Jenny Jones show to find out who it was. The show opened with Jenny Jones talking to the audience, or talking to the camera, and she said, this is what Jenny Jones says to open the show. Now, which of these ways would you choose to reveal your secret crush to someone? Would you A, write that person a letter? B, would you tell that person in private in case he rejects you? Or C, would you tell that person that you're gay and hope that he is on national television? To which the audience erupts in laughter and screams and hoots and hollers and cheers.
She actually opened the episode with that.
That's how the episode opens of this show.
So at this point, was Jonathan suspicious?
No, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So before Jonathan Schmitz came out on the stage, the audience was introduced to Donna and her friend Scott Amador. Scott is a 32-year-old bartender from the Orion Township of Michigan. He lives in a trailer park and enjoys watching the drama of other people's lives unfold on daytime talk shows, much like the Jenny Jones show. Scott has a crush on his acquaintance, Jonathan Schmitz, who he met through his friend Donna when he was working on her car. This is where his crush developed. So Jenny next starts asking Scott what it is that he likes about Jonathan and if he has any fantasies about him, to which the audience is just lapping this up. Ooh. And let's all just remember that this is taking place in 1995 when gay relations are still very much a taboo, even though it's
It's more accepted,
It's
but it was
more-
still like a ooh, like
And-
it had an extra added sort of
It was
scandalous nature, right?
not everybody was out. It's still, it was like a lot different back then.
That's like 25 years ago.
22 years ago.
Okay,
But
whatever.
still,
Math genius.
Sorry. It's 22 years ago that this was going on. So obviously America's attitudes about homosexuality are a lot more backwards back then and closed-minded than they are today. And like I said before, in the same vein of you couldn't have this kind of show on really today, or a lot of the ways that this show used to operate today, just the reaction of the audience alone is so rooted in that kind of homophobia because they're laughing anytime the word gay is said.
Right. It's all titillating to think of gay sex or whatever.
Right. It's like a big joke. And so
there's also this idea already, I think, that this guy's going to be embarrassed and humiliated.
Yeah, it's like this is going to be good. Like this guy has a gay crush on someone.
Yeah.
Let's watch this show.
Yeah.
So Scott begins to describe different scenarios about his fantasies that he has about his acquaintance, Jonathan Schmitz. Jenny says, when he was under the car, you had a fantasy about him. Scott says, yeah, something to do with brake oil lines snapping.
What?
And the audience is like, woo, and freaking out.
But what is that sex act?
No, it just means that he he's like the first time he ever met Jonathan Schmitz, he was working on their mutual friend Donna's car, and all he could see was like the bottom half of him because he was underneath her car. So Scott sees him and he's like, I just want one of those brake oil lines to snap and just get black oil all over his body.
Oh, I see. God, that is such a pedestrian fantasy.
Like
I couldn't
delicious
even grasp
black jizz.
Ooh, I just want to, like, I mean, what? It's like the slow mo, and he takes his shirt off to get the black oil off.
Yeah,
I don't even know enough about cars to know what's hot. Because I was like, oh, does that mean the car would fall on? I'm sorry.
I'm sure there's a fetish for that.
Okay, I mean, yeah, there's a fetish for everything.
Scott goes on to say next, I got a pretty big hammock in my yard, and I thought about tying him up to my hammock.
Jesus.
And
I like how he's like everyone's aunt right now with 50 Shades of Grey.
Right.
This is how much things have changed.
Dude, a hammock? Really?
I mean, these fantasies are so, they're so your Facebook auntie. Like, ooh, Christian Grey.
Also,
tie me up.
I don't think he's really thinking this whole fantasy through with the hammock because hammocks are difficult to get in and out of, in my opinion.
Right.
And you tie this guy up to the hammock. Like, I just imagine you like try to get on top of him as he's tied up in your hammock and the hammock just flipping over.
Well, maybe he just wants to tie him up on the hammock and look at him.
And rock him back and forth like
or just
a baby.
Like jerk off on him. I don't know.
Well, he had a fantasy about the hammock.
Right.
And Jenny Jones wants to know more. She's like goading him into like, no, tell the audience more about what you want to do to this guy. And Scott says, well, it entails like whipped cream and champagne.
Oh my God. Has this guy ever had sex? I'm sorry.
So before taping of this episode began, Donna and Scott were told by producers that they should have a few drinks to help them loosen up before the show. Yes.
Wait, I love that his friend is Donna.
I know.
Donna's like my favorite name for
Donna is, yeah. We'll post a picture of Donna. They were given money by the show to use at the hotel bar. So the pair of friends had a few drinks.
They had some Chablis.
They had vodka.
Okay.
So next on the show, Jonathan is then introduced to the stage to the roaring delight of the audience. And Jenny thinks this is all really funny. Like they're playing this big trick on him. I mean, that's like the whole vibe of the show right now is like this guy just walking out. I'm going to find
some
out
like hot woman he works with has a crush on her.
Literally. And we'll get into that later. Oh my God, I'm going to find out my crush. And Jonathan's a handsome guy. So Jonathan walks out on the stage. He sees his friend Donna.
Handsome-ish.
He's handsome-ish.
I mean, he's not ugly.
Whatever. He's a good-looking guy. He hugs his friend Donna, and then he does this. He sees Scott. He does this really awkward hug with Scott. It's like probably one of the most awkward
Did you
hugs.
see this online?
Yes, I watched it.
I thought that they never released it.
They didn't, but you can see clips of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jenny Jones is like, she goes, I bet you think the girl has a crush on you.
Wow, they were so subtle.
She goes, I bet you think it's Donna who has a crush on you, don't you? And Jonathan's like looking around like, what? And Jenny Jones goes, it's actually Scott.
Jesus Christ.
And everyone's laughing. Jonathan looks super embarrassed, and they're all sitting down next to each other at this point. He looks super embarrassed and really nervous and like, oh my God, what am I fucking doing? But he's trying to look like a good sport. He's like laughing playfully, but also you can just tell he's super uncomfortable by all of this. And then he points to his friend Donna and says, you lied to me. Ugh. Then Jenny plays the clip of Scott talking about the whipped cream fantasies for Jonathan and the studio audience. And Jonathan is just mortified. Then he says, I am a heterosexual. Now, Jonathan, who was 24 at the time, he had been engaged to a woman, but the couple had broken off their engagement a few months before the taping of the show. Jonathan had actually hoped that maybe his ex was the one with the secret crush on him and that they would reunite on this show. He also wondered if his secret admirer was a girl at work that he had been flirting with. So at this point, before he goes on the show, he didn't initially want to agree to do this, but his coworkers kind of were like, just do it. What if it's this girl? Or what if it's your ex? Like, you should just do it. You should do it. So they convinced him to do it. And he ends up eventually getting himself pretty pumped up about the potential for a new romance or reigniting this old romance in his life. And before the show, he buys $300 worth of new clothes to wear on the show to meet.
He went to Chess King.
He looked so sincere when you said that.
I'm just trying to picture like where he would go to spend money on wardrobe.
Right.
I mean, he's so 90s. He's got his like Z Cavariccis.
Totally.
And, like, yeah.
His like sweater vests and shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Guess.
If we're lucky.
So after the taping, Jonathan returns home to Michigan, which is where this trio is all from. And he spends the night getting wasted with coworkers. And he ends up staying up the entire night, getting drunk. And the next morning, Jonathan finds a note on his door. It was from Scott. It said, if you really want to get it off, I'm the only one who has the right tool.
Jesus Christ. These people are terrible at sex. Right? I mean, I know it's not really the most important thing, but like, my God.
So Jonathan Schmitz had a history of mental illness and alcoholism. In the past, he had locked himself in closets for days and even built shrines to his ex-girlfriends. Jonathan also may have been closeted. A local gay bar called Club Flamingo, which I'm sorry, it's just like the most...
I would love to go to this club.
I would too.
Can I just have a brief transgression here?
Yes.
Or whatever. My favorite gay bar when I was growing up, like after when I could go to a bar, was in like a really working class neighborhood of Long Island, and it was called Blanche. And it was like the most working class gay bar I have ever been to, and I've never surpassed my level of joy at a gay bar than I did at Blanche, because it was all like blue collar gay guys, and Blanche like this blue collar working class Billy Joel type town, and like they would have things like wire hanger night, like their gay, their level of gay was like introduction, like it was like they had just discovered Mommy Dearest, like and I was like madly in love with them. I was the only woman who ever went. And I would sing karaoke there, and they would actually ask me to sing like One Moment in Time by Whitney Houston. I'm sorry, but I was like, I was literally like a star there. I was like, they had me on a pedestal, and I was just like, I love Blanche. Like, I want to go to Blanche. I wonder if it's still there. I would love to go again. It was so good.
That's such a good name too.
Blanche. I know, and I was like, that is such a good name, and it's like a perfect bar name. But it was like a dive bar too. It was not a club like Club Flamingo.
Club Flamingo.
I mean, that sounds
which has Miami Vice decor,
right? Okay.
Probably.
Sorry, that's my little side note. Shout out to Blanche.
Shout out to Blanche. So, it was reported by an employee at Club Flamingo that they had seen Jonathan Schmitz at their establishment before.
Oh.
And that he would basically just go in, walk around by himself,
Right.
and leave. But he'd been there.
So that seems pretty typical of a closeted person, maybe like
Checking
stepping
it
in,
out.
testing the waters, but
Right.
like just seeing if something happens, but
Yeah.
not pursuing anything necessarily.
Right. That's possible.
Yeah.
So
It's possible.
on March 9th, 1995, just 3 days after the taping of The Jenny Jones Show, Jonathan Schmitz went to the bank and withdrew some money. Next, he purchased a shotgun. Then he headed to Scott Amador's home. Jonathan walked up to Scott, went into his mobile home, and shot him twice in the chest and left. When his neighbor and friend, 50-year-old Gail Clinton, found him, she said that there was smoke pouring out of his chest.
Smoke?
Yes, that is what she said. Like, because he'd just been blown away by a shotgun.
So
Like,
she
his
came
chest-
upon him like right after.
Like, it was like a cartoon. Like, there was
Jesus.
smoke pouring out of his chest. She later said, which I thought was a weird thing to say, she said, all I can think right now is that he's got to be happy. He's probably looking down and saying, I knew I'd make it on TV.
Ugh.
Yeah. So 15 minutes later, after the murder, Jonathan calls the police and he confessed to the crime. He told the 911 dispatcher that he had felt humiliated by the Jenny Jones Show and that Scott had, quote, fucked him on national TV.
That's an interesting choice of words.
Well, it is interesting because there's also been some speculation that Scott and Jonathan did end up fucking
Right.
after the Jenny Jones Show.
That's what I was going to say, but I didn't know if you were getting to it.
Yes. What did you hear?
I thought it was something like that when they went out, the drinking he did was with Scott. That night he went out drinking.
That was
and that was
speculated.
where they had the sexual encounter.
Right.
And then that the note was what set him off.
Like, because he was in a sober state of mind, he realized
Right,
what
that he had maybe
done.
fooled around. Like maybe they didn't fuck, but maybe
Right.
they fooled around and Scott thought there would be more.
Right.
And that's what I had. But so I never thought it was like a proven thing, but just like
Yeah.
another rumor
Yeah.
that they had sort of had some kind of sexual experience
Right.
together and that the note set him off.
Well, Scott's mom, actually, I read in an old article that she had said, oh, yeah, they for sure had a sexual encounter.
Right.
They had a sexual encounter that night, or like the night they were drinking
Right.
together. So, the Jenny Jones Show was then accused by both the media and Michigan prosecutor Richard Thompson of negligence. They argued that this, quote, ambush style of television played a role in the death of Scott Amador. And, that was that became the narrative. And the Jenny Jones Show was actually taken to court, civil court.
Right. For wrongful death.
For wrongful death. Obviously, Jonathan Schmitz, they knew he was guilty and stuff, but they were trying to get the Jenny Jones Show on this too. There was this whole, you guys instigated this.
Right.
You goaded Jonathan into doing this. You
pushed a
humiliate-
mentally
you-
ill man
Right,
who,
you
who
didn't-
suffered from mental illness.
You didn't do a background check on this guy. Like,
Right.
he has a history of...
Also, they got them drunk.
Right.
I mean, I feel like this is already I'm thinking this has set up a lot of rules going forward
It
for
has.
these talk shows.
There has been rules put in place since this incident. So Jeffrey Montgomery, who was the head of a Michigan LGBT rights group, was furious that this prosecutor, Richard Thompson, was validating this argument about he was pushed into doing this because he was basically like, so why is it so humiliating
Right.
to be gay? Which at the time was a more progressive thing to question than it would be today. Because today it's like immediate, like, yeah, that is that is insulting.
Well, but there's that's not really the point.
No, it's not the point.
Right. Like, I mean, I don't understand. Obviously, no one should consider it humiliating to be gay, but that person felt that way. Like, do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, people aren't all on the same page. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying that became part of the narrative. It became part of the story that, like, this guy didn't, it
Right.
was really baked into it. There was a lot of homophobia baked into.
oh, I completely
excuse?
agree. But it doesn't change the fact that the show did that to somebody who had that inclination, right?
Or, I mean, and the show, of course, we know now in hindsight was problematic in its own right, even for making such a speculation about a same-sex
Right. Well,
crush.
they found it titillating.
Right.
I mean, they pursued it because
tawdry.
of that. Yeah.
Right. So the whole thing is a mess.
No, the whole thing is a mess. Definitely.
But I'm just saying that this activist, this head of this organization was basically like, how dare you make this excuse for this obviously homophobic guy, basically, or say that like that's any kind of justification.
Right.
And,
it's absolutely no justification.
Right. But I do think also at that time too, and there still are plenty of stories like this that happen where people who, there's people who are homophobic and they find themselves either engaging in homosexual sex or they don't want to be, they whatever.
They take it out on the guy.
Take it out
and
on
I
the
know
person.
plenty of gay male friends of mine who've
been attacked.
have been attacked
Right.
after having some sort of sexual experience with a straight guy.
Right, a
in
guy who
quotes.
says he's straight.
Right.
So it is, obviously that's a real thing that happens.
Definitely.
So Jenny Jones had to go to court for this civil case.
I remember pictures of her during the trial.
It's really eerie to watch her.
Right, because
she's
so subdued and sort of in professional.
Right,
like it was so weird.
Because like the way she talks on her show is so like, hey,
Yeah.
like woo, like just like all like
It's so like
goofy.
80s female comic. Like
It's
that
so
persona
cheesy.
a lot of them had to take on.
It's
because you
very
had to be a
cheesy.
certain way when you were like a female comic in that day and age,
Yeah, I mean, she's ridiculous. But so she was like, no, neither myself or my show should be held responsible because guests knew beforehand that their crush could have been either a man or a woman.
Right.
However, Jonathan's friend Donna said that when Jonathan was told that the crush might be a man, he said he wasn't cool with that, but that producers and staffers told him not to worry, and they basically alluded to him that the crush would definitely be a woman.
I see.
So they lied. They lied to him, but there is an argument, the producers and the staffers of the show still adamantly deny that. They say, no, we always said it would be a man or a woman, but like people who know Jonathan swear up and down that no, they basically alluded to him, don't worry, it'll be a woman.
Right.
Like that was the only reason
I mean, I
he
can
went.
see how they could consider themselves having told the truth, but still being a little winky to him. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. So in 1996, Jonathan Schmitz was sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison. And after an appeal in 1999, he was retried and convicted again. Jonathan ended up serving 22 years of his sentence, and he was released in August of 2017.
oh, wow.
He's out. He just got out. He's 47 now.
Damn.
The Jenny Jones show was ordered to pay $25 million to the Amador family, but then that ruling was overturned, which sucks for them. Like they won this money, but then it was overturned. Jonathan is back in Michigan living with his parents. And Frank Amador Jr., Scott's older brother, told the Chicago Tribune recently, he said, I wanted assurance that the parole board's decision was not based on just good behavior in prison. I'd like to know that he learned something, that he's a changed man, is no longer homophobic, and has gotten psychological care. I mean, it is sort of crazy to think that after only 22 years, this guy is out.
He killed someone.
He fucking killed someone. And he was only charged with second-degree murder. He was only convicted of second-degree murder when this was premeditated. He planned
because he
this.
got the money and
He went and got a
the
shotgun.
gun. And didn't he have didn't he actually go in and confront Scott and then go back out and get
he
the
did.
gun? I mean, this is not a moment of heat or a heated moment or an argument.
Planned it. He went in, he confronted Scott, but he didn't confront him. He was friendly to Scott. He
Right.
went in and was basically like, "Hey, oh, hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta turn my car off." And instead of turning his car
He
off,
got the gun.
He got the gun and went in and fucking shot him.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I would be curious what treatment he's gotten, and what that's called the gay panic defense, right?
Right.
That was sort of what the guy was sort of
That it shouldn't
criticizing.
be a defense.
It's I completely agree that it should never be a defense.
No.
What I was saying before is I misunderstood what you were saying. I think it is irrelevant. I think it's why he did it. Like,
oh, it's why he did
yeah,
it.
I mean, I think that's what I was confused about. But yeah,
No.
I don't think it's a relevant defense.
No, it's not a relevant defense, and that's what the guy.
Absolutely not.
That's what this head of this organization was saying. Was like, how dare you?
And using it, although their defense attorneys are going to use what they're going to use.
Of course, of course
definitely.
they are.
But it should be, as a society, something we don't accept. I mean,
no,
it's ridiculous.
not an acceptable defense.
But I mean, defense attorneys are pieces of shit, and they do tons of stuff that is really bad and horrible, right? I mean, but
sometimes, but like, I just,
when you're looking to get a guilty person off, you have to go into this victim blaming mode,
right?
Usually,
of course,
yeah,
of course.
So.
I just.
But
I mean, that's really the story. But yeah, I was sort of taken aback when I realized, oh my God, like this guy's been out for months now, just walking around.
Murder convictions are so infuriating sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, why is it first degree and what's second degree? And why do some people, do you know what I mean? Like,
it just seems like
I'd be
such
so
a short amount of
furious
time.
if I was a family member to Scott.
And the family didn't even get the money from the civil suit.
Has he ever apologized or said anything regretting what he did?
No. And who knows? Like his Scott's older brother said, like, who knows if this guy is getting treatment.
Right. And he's only in his 40s. Like,
yeah, he's not old.
That's crazy.
It's wild. It's really fucking wild. I saw some pictures of him from.
He looks bad. I looked him up.
He looks terrible now. But there was like this one photo of him from 2005 while he was still in prison. And he has like really long hair and like a beard and stuff.
Oh, I saw that. Was that him?
It's not a good look on him.
No, the one I saw, he looked like he did at 24, but
puffy.
like puffy and pudgy.
Yeah. He looks puffy.
I did see that beard one, but I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
wow.
He looks terrible. There's like two different beard.
That story was crazy though.
It's crazy. I mean,
it seemed so destined to happen. Like, you're putting all these people who are sort of fame hungry.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm surprised it didn't happen more often in those days either, because that was really, I mean,
that would be a good episode. Like, maybe, obviously, they're not obviously a lot of murders,
right?
But sort of weird things that happen post those talk shows. Like, I'm sure there's like sort of memorable people who had weird things. I always
wonder where, because these people, this is pre-reality show days,
right?
Too,
it's like the early reality shows.
It really was like early reality show. These people are essentially plucked from obscurity. They're put in front of,
and they used to have things at the end of the show. Call us if you have an
oh
uncle.
my God,
like
an uncle who molested your overweight sister.
Yeah,
always.
Have you ever done anything weird for sex? Like, I mean, it was just like asking for people to make up stuff, and like you're kind of sort of
make up
targeting
stuff, but
people who might be game to just do whatever to get on TV, right? I mean,
well, not only that, but also targeting broken people,
right?
People who are already broken.
I just assume if you're anxious to get on TV, you are broken.
Well, yeah.
It's one and the same.
But I was tripping thinking about this yesterday. Like someone I don't know how I'm Facebook friends with this person. I don't even know this person. It must be like we have mutual friends. I don't know. I'm Facebook friends with this person. And she had posted that she was on the Dr. Phil show this week.
What?
Yeah.
Because that's like hard to get on probably.
Well, like,
I mean, Dr. Phil isn't like anyone can call up and get on.
No, but like her and her family, because she's out of control, this girl, this woman, she's like 36. She's on the Dr. Phil show this week. And I was like, I know this person. Like, I'm Facebook friends with this person. And I was like, watched like clips of her episode. And I'm like, damn. And obviously this is a human being who has a lot of problems and the family has problems. And I was just wondering, like, what does it take? I was thinking, I'm like, well, like, I would love to know if anyone knows anyone who's been on one of these shows and like what they tell the person or what the thought process is. Like, do you get offered money? Is it because you get offered money? Is it because you get offered treatment?
I think that's treatment.
And that's the thing that made me really sad, is because drug and alcohol treatment or any kind of psychological treatment costs money, especially drug and alcohol treatment.
Like to go to a rehab.
It costs
center,
a lot of money. And obviously, if you're hard up for cash and you're a drug addict, it's fucking sucks. You can't just go away to some nice ass fucking place. So my big problem with all these reality shows that are based around drugs and alcohol is that it takes advantage of really sick people who need money, who should be able to get treatment in private, but all of a sudden they have to air out all of their dirty laundry to everybody, and how psychologically damaging that can be to them. And then everyone just gets to judge them on TV.
Right, and a lot of times you don't see a follow-up.
No.
So that's
or they fucking die.
That's just the impression you have of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So I was like watching these clips of this girl who I guess I'm friends with on Facebook, like on the Dr. Phil show, just thinking like, damn, dude, like this guy makes hella fucking money, like exploiting people's pain.
Right.
Like the worst moments of their life.
That is sort of the double-edged sword of these type of shows.
Right.
Like, yes, you want to believe some of them get help that they might not ever otherwise get.
But it's at such a price.
Exploitive.
It's at such
they're
a
making
price.
money off of these people's pain.
That's what it
Right.
is.
So
even shows like Intervention.
Even the best high-level shows.
Of course. It's all for money, and it's
an entertainment.
It's entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's not an entertaining thing. Granted, of course, I said before.
It's entertaining.
Dude, of course it's entertaining.
Yeah. But ultimately, if you think too deep about it, it's sad.
I just think like, I mean, if I had an intervention, like if my intervention was broadcast on national TV, I like looking back on that, like especially with all the stigma everyone has about drug and alcohol addiction and just any kind of mental illness, like people are such assholes about it. There's so little a lot of people get about it. I would be mortified. But like, what if, like there's, I don't know. I was just, but then again, it's like, I loved the Jenny Jones show growing up. I loved seeing these like fucked up people air their dirty laundry out.
Well, the majority of it ends up being fine, and it was like a fun experience for them. There's like a small percentage, I think, where it is actually bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like most people go on and it's like a hoot for them. They get to go on TV and get food and whatever, craft services. I'm serious though. Like, I think it is sort of fun for most people. But there's a small percentage where it's like you want to hope that they're sort of being a little careful, but you don't. I mean, look at it. I mean, we're talking about people who are getting their first jobs in Hollywood, PAs, and like, well, they don't have any training or anything like that. Like,
and I do think that there is a difference between shows that are arguably like maybe more scripted or maybe more sensationalized, like the Jenny Jones show, as opposed to like Dr. Phil, where like it appears to be like real people with real fucked up problems.
Right. Dr. Phil, I honestly have a bit more problem with his type of show because I feel like he's presenting himself as like some doctor.
Is he really a doctor?
I mean, I guess he is, but it's just like there's something that bothers me more about it because it's like, don't you have some kind of professional code? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, I guess it supposedly makes it better that he might have some kind of training, but at the same time, it's like, isn't this against some kind of Hippocratic oath or something?
I don't know. I feel like I have just as much training as him just for going to so much therapy throughout my life. I have no idea. Like, I could regurgitate all the same fucking shit.
Me too. I never even went to therapy. I've seen enough shows. I know.
I've seen my shows.
Cool.
So that's sad. Do you want to talk about our patrons? We got some new patrons.
We got some new patrons on Patreon. So let me give some shout outs here to Dave. Hey Dave. Azriel, Jesse, Matthew, Drew, who watches with his best friend. Did you see that comment? Oh my God,
Drew, I loved your comment. That made my night when I read that.
It. Hi Drew. He called us lovely too, so we love that. Christina. And then today we have one from Kendra.
Thank
Kendra. Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you guys so
everyone.
much.
It's so great. You can check out our Patreon.
Yeah.
If you want to throw us $1, or you can even just do $1.
I actually was thinking about a new $1 perk we could give out that we're going to talk about after the show, after we're finished recording. But stay tuned for an exciting new perk. If you can't do $5 a month for our bonus episodes, I've just come up with an idea for a $1 perk that. Hopefully, if you want to toss us $1 a month, that would be super dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also check out our Facebook fan page or whatever it's called.
It's a group.
It's a group.
It's a
so
community
it's
group.
Hollywood Crime Scene Friends.
Yeah, Hollywood Crime Scene
and
Friends.
it's really fun. We post follow-up articles on the shows. We talk about things. People give us suggestions. We're pretty active on there.
Yeah.
And the group is really fun so far. So far, so good.
And we're actually nearing our first Patreon goal, which is $500 a month. That's our first goal we're trying to reach. And when we reach that goal, we're going to let our listeners take a poll and vote for our next episode.
Oh, we are?
Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
girl.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That's it.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't want no meat. I don't want no meat. Just more taters.